Hey everyone, so here's a video that I meant to do quite a while ago, honestly like a year ago. I have not made a video going over the triggers that you can get for the V12, specifically the TAPP Airsoft triggers that are available for the V12s. I get a lot of questions regarding V12 triggers. TAPP Airsoft actually makes triggers for standard version 2s, so you could put in an AEG if you wanted to, but rather HPA, it would fit like a jack, F1, fusion engine, stuff like that, and then they make V12 specific triggers. That's really what they're known for because they're the only company that makes triggers for the V12 that I know of. I'm sure there's some people that 3D print their own triggers and do all that sort of stuff, but TAPP Airsoft is the only one that pretty much mass produces them and goes through legit 3D printing sites for their stuff. So, if I'm not mistaken, most of their stuff is through, it's either Shapeways or Sculpteo. I forget which one the triggers go through. I think it's Sculpteo for the triggers. But anyways, they are 3D printed, plastic of course. You can get some metal ones if you want. I'm pretty sure they're quite a bit more expensive. And they only come in certain colors. So that would be up to you on which one you want. Alright, so I got it pulled up here. First, I would go ahead and do the dyed regular. For the colors, you can do matte painted, which is not available with, actually literally none of it's available. So it's raw or dyed regular. I think the raw is straight up just white. Okay, so as far as the dyed, you can get blue, yellow, red, green, beige, brown, pink, orange, and black. So pretty much every color you really want. Let's see if we can change the material. SLS plastic. Let's do metal and see what kind of finishes they come in. So there's rough or polished. That's cool. Colors. Nickel plated, gold plated, or Damascus. Huh. Okay. Well, those are the colors for the metal triggers. Okay, so there's no extra charge for the colors from, compared to blue to red per se, but there is a charge for getting it dyed compared to doing it raw. I think it's like $1 or $2 more. So it's definitely worth getting a color if you want. You could just get it white if it matches your gun or whatnot. The different triggers, the different styles. So basically, you've got the standard trigger, which is curved, which isn't bad. I have one of these in my SR25. I just use it stock. You can shorten the trigger pull. There's a lot of misconception. I hear people say all the time, oh, you got a speed trigger in your gun. I kind of cringe every time somebody says that because the speed trigger is not what makes your gun fast or speed. These are not speed triggers. Speed is a brand of triggers, okay? They make the black and the silver, or polished, whatever you want to call it, triggers. They make curved ones, and then they make straight ones. They're adjustable with screws, and they're mainly for HPA. They can work with AEGs as well. But yeah, that's a speed brand, okay? Other triggers here, this gun with the standard trigger, curved trigger, can be shot just as fast as any of these because the V12 keeps up. It's the engine that keeps up. No matter how fast you pull that trigger, it's going to make a cycle. It's going to fire, and that's just the electronics. That basically the electronics doings. The triggers themselves, can help with speed as far as the length. The longer triggers getting multiple fingers to be able to shoot fast. Okay, you can shoot fast with those, but I can shoot just as fast with, a flat trigger or a curved trigger just by shooting it a certain way. As far as the styles that TAPP Airsoft offers, they do offer the Reaper, which I don't have. It's basically like 2 fingers and it's extended. I don't like that at all. I honestly don't like the look at all. And then there's the small scathe that stays in the trigger guard that does not extend past the trigger guard. This is the long scathe, so just imagine this being scaled down to the trigger guard. They make a small version. This is the extended scathe, and this is the trigger guard for the scathe. So this is a trigger where what people like to refer to as paintball triggers, or some people call them blade triggers. double triggers, all that sort of stuff. That's really what this is. They are all 3D printed, like I said. And again, they do offer the trigger guard for it. It's completely compatible, and they're both plastic. And this has no trigger spring in it. Really, I can't shoot this that fast, honestly. There we go. So yeah, got pretty good trigger response, of course. Again, it's the engine itself that keeps up, because if you were to put one of these long triggers in some HPA engines that don't keep up, or they have a delay, it's not going to shoot quick, and the trigger is not going to help. It's the electronics itself that is going to mainly help your cycling and the ability to work your trigger. And obviously, you don't have to shoot it like this. You don't have to. You can just shoot it like this. You can use 2 fingers. That's what a lot of people do. They just use 2 fingers, and they kind of just do it fairly slowly. I do that sometimes when I don't want to just light people up, or I don't just want to shoot a bunch of BBs in somebody's direction. I'll shoot slow. A lot of this is just keeping people's heads down. When I go like this, and I'm shooting that fast, all of those BBs that come out of this gun are not hitting one person. Most of the time when I shoot fast like that, it's to allow my teammates to move up, allow me to move up, because it keeps the enemy's heads down, or if they pop out while I'm shooting, they're going to get hit, that sort of stuff. It also scares people, whatnot, and it's freaking fun is what it is. And again, you can get both of these in different colors, so you can mix and match guns. There's a lot of cool builds out there where people will Cerakote their gun, or they'll hydro dip it, and it's like a galaxy color. It's like blue, purple, black, and then they can do a blue trigger with a black trigger guard, or a purple trigger guard with a blue trigger, just to go with that whole theme. I don't know if you could hydro dip the plastic and get it to stick to that. You might be able to like paint these. There's just a lot of cool things that people do to make their gun unique and stand out from the rest. So there's that trigger. And then there's the stock trigger in the V12 curved triggers. And then we also have the blade trigger, which is an extended trigger that goes past the trigger guard, or you cut it off completely like I have here, and you can work the trigger. Now, the blade trigger is a lot longer than normal than this, and I'll show you that on a picture. So there's a blade trigger. It's, I don't know, a good, you can see, well, right there, the profile of it. I've cut it probably, I don't know, an inch shorter. So it's longer normally. I cut it short, and I actually kind of regret that. I don't know why I did it. I don't know, I thought it was a little too long. But honestly now, I kind of regret it. But it doesn't matter. I can still get 2 fingers on it. I can even just do 3. It's honestly easier just to take your whole hand and put it like that. I can still work the trigger, no problem, so no speed difference. It would probably just look a little bit better being longer. So that was a mistake of me by cutting it, but it is what it is. So that, yes, is the blade trigger. It's not compatible with the stock trigger guard. That's what it says in the description. Of course, you have to remove that. As far as, will the trigger guard, the scathed trigger guard work in this? Honestly, I'm not sure. If you could use the this trigger guard with the, no, you couldn't, because it would extend past, because it's too long. If you cut it, you could fit it in there. So keep that in mind. If you do use the blade trigger, I'm sure you could cut the blade trigger like I did and fit it in the trigger guard, but as a standard, it would be too long, and it would hit the guard. There is a different trigger guard on here. It's the Reaper guard. So that might, this is compatible with TAPP Reaper. So generally this blade trigger is supposed to not be used with any trigger guard, but you could probably cut it and shorten it and use it with the TAPP Reaper guard or the Scathe guard like this if you wanted to, but you just have to shorten it so that it doesn't, hit the bottom of the trigger guard, if that makes any sense. And then there is the cut face, which is basically, I would say, the most popular trigger, and that's because it's cool. It's straight. It's got a hole in it, a big gap in it. It's very thin. The walls are very thin, and it's cool. You can see straight through it. It's skeletonized, I guess you could say. These triggers are flexible. That is one thing that really sucks about the plastic. It's flexible, which makes the pull longer. Now, this trigger, I have shimmed it. They come pre-shimmed, but not shimmed enough. So I did shim it with, I think I used heat shrink for this in 2 different spots. And so basically what that does is it limits the travel. So there's very little travel in this. There's a little bit of play in the plastic itself, but I can work this trigger so well, and it's perfect. The blue on this thing is pretty dark. It's a dark blue. The original versions, I think, were a light blue, and then they started doing a darker blue because I've done a few of the blues since. I've had one of the light ones, and they were all dark. I think it was like my first trigger that I got from them. It was kind of a lighter blue. So I think they've just updated the dye for it, I guess. But yeah, those are the options for the V12 triggers from TAPP Airsoft. As far as speed, again, you can get them all to shoot very, very quickly. I also want to show this one off. This is my friend's. This was a TAPP Scathe that extended past the trigger guard, or scythe, sorry. I kept saying Scathe, I think. It's scythe. But I cut it. I cut it down and I did some cool designs. I drilled holes in it and then I cut lines into it so you can see the white underneath, so it's pretty cool. So be creative. Do something cool. There is no trigger spring in here, so you could still get 2 fingers on it and work the trigger. But he didn't like it extended because he said he kept accidentally hitting it. So with this, it's definitely out of the way. You can still hit it, but he said it definitely is enough for him. Again, you can still work the trigger and everything. So that's cool. You can use the springs, trigger springs. You could even use no spring for the cut face, but depends on you and your field. A lot of fields will complain about that sort of stuff. I just encourage people to shoot lower feet per second, and you can tune your guns to do that. So that's pretty much the speed, the normal speed that I can shoot this. You can shoot it like this, like that. So that is definitely quicker than the blade trigger, and it's more consistent, because the blade trigger, I can't really get it going. With this, I can get a very consistent rate of fire out of it, for sure. So, yeah, loving the V12s in general, even stock triggers. So, as you can see there, I can work the trigger very, very, very quickly. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Highly recommend TAPP Airsoft triggers. Just Google them. I'm going to try to put some links in the description, but just literally go on Google, look up TAPP Airsoft V12 triggers, and then you'll pull up with their site, and they have their triggers, and they also have 3D printed nozzles and selector plates for like MP5s for V12s, SR25s for V12s, SCARs for V12s, and some custom stuff like that. So see you on the next video.